Welcome to Chapter 4, the Law of Demand. When we're talking about demand, we want to talk about three criteria in order for it to actually have what economists call demand. First of all, you have to have the ability to pay for it. You have to have the willingness to buy it. And you have to have the desire to buy it. All right, so for an example, I have the ability to buy a new boat, but I do not have the desire to buy a new boat. So do I have economic demand for a new boat? Hopefully you said no. All right, so what does the law of demand say? The law of demand says that the quantity demanded of a good or service varies inversely. And what does inversely mean? It means one goes up and one goes down. So if you want to write that down for yourself right there to make a note, that would be a great idea. All right, so let's look what this looks like. So price always comes first because price is going to determine everything that happens with your demand. So for an example, if you go to the store and you're used to buying a Mountain Dew for $1 and the price goes up to $2, most likely you're not going to buy it. So let's do that. Price goes up, demand goes down. Just like that Mountain Dew example. Now, if you walked into Weis and that Mountain Dew that you normally buy that was used to be $1 is now 25 cents, what do you think is going to happen to your demand? Hopefully you said it goes up. So now you might buy 2 or 3 and have a spare one for later on. All right, so this is just another way to visualize the law of demand. So what always comes first? Hopefully you said price. So based on this right here, price goes up, what happens to demand? It goes down. Opposite, what comes first? Hopefully you said price. And then price goes down, demand goes up. Now, price is an obstacle which discourages consumers from buying. If the price goes up too much, most people are just going to decide they're not going to buy it, or they're going to try to buy something else instead. And common sense says if something goes on sale, people are going to come out and buy it. Or if there's really good coupons that go with it to bring the price down, all of those things are going to lead to increased demand. All right, so I mentioned the fact that sometimes price goes up too much. You either aren't going to buy it or you're going to buy something else. And that something else, that's called the substitution effect. Okay, so I really like to eat apples every day, and the price of Gala apples went from $4.99 a bag to $7.99 a bag recently. I think it's because of the harsh winter conditions. So that was just too pricey for me for a bag of 6 apples. So I decided that I was going to buy some Red Delicious apples instead. So I still got my apples, I just got a different kind. So that's the substitution effect. So why don't you write down an example of a time that you experienced the substitution effect. So go ahead and pause the video, and I'll see you back in a minute. Welcome back. I hope you were able to come up with a time where you have experienced the substitution effect. All right, so another thing that's going to affect demand is something called the income effect. This is the change in quantity demanded because of a change in price that alters consumers' real income. This is a little bit confusing. Your income doesn't actually change with this, it's just whether you feel richer or you feel poorer. So let's talk about gas. As we know, gas prices keep going up. And when the gas prices go up, do you feel like you have more money or less money in your pocket? Probably feel like you have less money in your pocket, all right? So that's when you feel poorer. Now, if the price of gas goes down to $2.99 a gallon, we're all getting very excited because we're going to feel like we have more money in our pocket. We're going to feel richer, even though our income didn't actually change. It's just how we feel about our income. Do we feel poorer or do we feel richer based on the prices of things? So why don't you go ahead and write down an example of a time that you experienced your income feeling like it was going up or feeling like it was going down because of the prices. So why don't you go ahead and go pause. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to come up with an example of the income effect. So let's check for understanding. What does it mean when an economist says that a consumer has demand for a good or service? All right, so let's go back to the front here. And what did we say that those qualities are? The ability to buy something, the willingness to buy it, and the desire to buy it. All right, let's keep that in mind. A, the consumer is able to afford the good or service, but may be unwilling to buy it. The consumer wants the good or service, but may not actually have the money to buy it. The consumer is able to buy the good or service, but not at the price demanded. Or the consumer is willing and able to buy the good or service at the specific price. So go ahead and pause, get rid of 2, choose your answer. Welcome back. All right, so I hope that when we were reading through these, you were able to say to yourself, nope, that's not right, because if I don't have the willingness to buy it, it can't be demand. And if you're saying I don't have the money, then that means I don't have the ability to buy it. All right, but the consumer is willing and able, and then at the desired price. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about graphing the law of demand. This right here is your demand schedule. This down here is your demand curve. And we always get our information for the curve based on what's in the schedule. All right, based on the law of demand, if price goes up, what happens to demand? Hopefully you said it goes down. All right, so if you see, we have increasing prices. So we go from 50 to $1, to $1.50 to $2 to $2.50 to $3. So that is an increase in price. And what did you tell me that has to happen to demand? Hopefully, you told me it has to go down. So let's start with 600. Let's go down to 500, 400, 300, 200, and 100. Okay, so far I'm good because I have my price going up and demand going down. So this is your demand curve. Quantity demanded is always on the bottom of the graph. And price is always on the left-hand axis of the curve. This is always 0. So what are my price points? My price points, 50 cents to $3. So let's go ahead and label that. 50, $1, $1.50, 2, $2.50, and $3. Okay, so now I need to get from 100 to 600 on my demand. So let's see, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600. Okay, now this is a little bit more difficult to do on the smartboard than it will be on your sheet of paper, so you'll just have to bear with me. All right, so I need to plot my points, and my first point is going to be 50 cents and 600. So I find 50 cents right there, and I find 600, and I connect them, and I draw a dot. Okay, hopefully that's about right in the right place. Then my next point is going to be $1 and 500, so I put a point. My next one is going to be $1.50 and 400. By the way, where am I getting these numbers from? Yep, you guessed it, the schedule. All right, so my next one is going to be $2 and 300, then $2.50 and 200, and $100 and $3. All right, so I'm going to connect my dots. Now, the misnomer, or the thing that makes this a little weird, is it's called a demand curve, but it's usually a straight line. All right. Now, there's a couple things we always have to do. First of all, we always have to label our curve. Second of all, and I put a D because of demand, and second of all, we want to make sure that it's always going in a downward facing direction. So maybe you can remember demand and down go in the same direction. All right, so the last IMO of this is I'd like you to come up with a real life example for this demand curve. So basically, I'm asking you, when is a situation where if price goes up, demand goes down? All right, I'll give you a for instance. All right, I drink, as you know, a lot of iced tea. And when it was 99 cents at Dunkin' Donuts, the price went down to 99 cents. What do you think happened to my demand? If you said it went up, you are correct, because price went down to 99 cents, so my demand goes up. Now, it is currently, I think, $1.99. So the price, or $1.94, goes up to $1.94. So what's going to happen to my demand for iced tea based on the law of demand? Price goes up, demand goes down. So I now, instead of buying 2 iced teas a day, I'm down to probably one iced tea a week because I don't like to pay $1.94 for iced tea. All right, so I hope that this explains demand, the law of demand for you. And if you have any questions, please ask.